The man was horrified to see two fish actually walking onto the shore. Before he could react, a whole swarm of fish lunged at him. In an instant, they devoured him completely. Can you imagine? These vicious man-eating fish were nothing but babies. They were not ordinary fish, but genetically modified mutants. When fully grown, they were massive. The smallest measured 6 to 10 feet, and the largest could rival the size of a fishing boat. One bite could swallow a grown man whole. Even crocodiles, the so-called kings of the water, were nothing but food in their eyes. A fisherman named John had no idea about the danger lurking underwater, ready to pull in his net, when a buoy was suddenly yanked underwater. Thinking he had caught something, he felt a moment of excitement, but the next second, a powerful force dragged him straight into the water. When he struggled back to the surface, his entire right arm was gone. He tried desperately to climb back onto the boat, but that same force pulled him under again. Blood bubbled up to the surface, and soon, only the small fishing boat remained. Not long after, police received a report. Someone had found John's mutilated body by the riverbank. The sheriff suspected a crocodile attack, but Sam, the medical examiner, noticed that the bite marks did not match a crocodile's. To uncover the truth, Sam decided to bring along Mary, a biologist, and head to the scene for investigation. On the way, Mary studied the photos Sam gave her, and also believed it wasn't a crocodile. Since the location was far from the ocean, it couldn't have been a shark either. What kind of creature could cause such horrific wounds to a human? With this question in mind, they continued forward. While moving along, Mary suddenly spotted something. It was a crocodile, lying motionless on the shore. Gathering her courage, she poked it gently with an oar, only to realize it was stone cold dead, and only its head remained. She guessed it might have been struck by a fishing boat's propeller, but Sam disagreed. There was no boat that large in this river. The mystery deepened. Following the river downstream, they soon encountered an elderly fisherman named Elmer, who caught catfish by hand. Through conversation, they learned Elmer had been John's neighbor. Sam decided to visit John's house to see if they could find any clues. Once Elmer knew who they were, he took them to his small riverside community, a cluster of floating stilt houses. There, they met John's wife Gloria and his daughter Eliza, along with Eliza's quasi-boyfriend Dan. Gloria said everything had been normal until a few months ago when a violent storm hit. Afterward, fishermen upstream spotted a strange fishing boat. Since then, the river had been plagued with strange events. Fish that once filled the waters vanished overnight, and then her husband's accident happened. Could all this be related to that mysterious boat? Sam decided they had to check it out immediately. Elmer ferried them to the location. The fishermen had never dared to board the strange vessel, thinking it was cursed, but Sam and Mary climbed aboard without hesitation. The moment they opened the cabin door, the stench of rotting flesh rushed out. Using the camera's flash, they discovered several badly decomposed bodies inside. Mary rushed out to vomit, but Sam found something. A strange fish scale, larger than anything Mary had ever seen. Elmer urged them to leave quickly, but as Mary stepped onto the fishing boat, Elmer slipped and fell into the water. A massive shadow moved beneath the surface, unseen by all three. Just as Sam reached out to pull Elmer up, he was dragged under by an unseen predator. When Sam turned with his gun ready, Elmer was already gone. Blood spread across the river, and in shock, Sam and Mary sped away from the scene. Unbeknownst to them, they had triggered a homing signal on the boat. This signal was picked up by a wealthy hunter named Jeff. It turned out that the monsters in these waters were genetically engineered giant snakeheads, or Frankenfish. They had been illegally bred and released by Jeff for the ultimate hunting thrill. Jeff and his team of hunters were now heading toward the swamp, following the signal. Back at the floating house, they immediately told everyone about Elmer being eaten by some kind of creature. Although they hadn't seen it clearly, they were almost certain it was the same thing that had killed John and eaten the crocodile. For safety's sake, Sam suggested they leave and alert the police. The fishermen had no choice but to agree, but since it was already late, traveling at night would be too dangerous. They decided to wait until morning. Unfortunately, that very night, another horrifying event occurred. On another houseboat, Roland, a stoner, suddenly heard something moving in the water. Curious, he grabbed a flashlight and peered outside. To his shock, a strange fish swam right past him. Roland rushed to tell his wife, Bobby. But when Bobby stepped out of the house, she saw a massive fish leap from the water and bite Roland's head clean off. Hearing the commotion, everyone rushed out to check. When Bobby shouted that something was in the water, Mary immediately realized the creature had followed them here. Sam warned Bobby to stay away from the edge, but the traumatized woman had lost all sense of reason. Panicking, she tried to escape in a small boat, but before she got far, the snakehead targeted her. It rammed her boat into the middle of the river, then struck from beneath, flipping it over with Bobby plunged into the water. For the first time, everyone clearly saw the monster's enormous size. But despite Bobby's desperate cries for help, no one could reach her in time. time. The snakehead closed in fast. Fisherman Ricardo fired, hitting its dorsal fin and driving it back for the moment. But unwilling to lose its prey, the snakehead circled back for another attack. Sam also fired, but it was useless. In the end, they could only watch helplessly as the snakehead swallowed Bobby whole. Now panic swept through the group. No wonder this thing could treat a crocodile like a snack. Realizing the houseboat was no longer safe, Sam decided they had to leave immediately. But just as he started the speedboat, the cunning Frankenfish destroyed it, cutting off their only escape. Hope vanished in an instant. Then Sam noticed that the neighboring houseboat seemed to have an engine. If they could start it, they could escape. But the only connection between the two houses was a rope with a metal bucket used for passing supplies. It probably couldn't hold Sam's weight, so the task fell to someone lighter. Eliza volunteered. With Sam's help, she sat in the bucket and slowly moved along the rope. She was just about to reach the other side when the rope suddenly snapped. The loud splash drew the snakehead's attention instantly. As Eliza scrambled to climb up, the snakehead burst from the water to attack. Sam fired just in time, saving her from its jaws. But the engine on the other boat was too old and broken to start. To make matters worse, Sam was now out of bullets, and the snakehead was still active in the water. They froze, not knowing what to do, until they noticed Ricardo working on something nearby. He pulled a catfish from a box, hooked it onto a metal line, and tossed it into the water. He was planning to lure the snakehead in. Sure enough, the monster took the bait, but it went straight for Ricardo. Luckily, he dodged in time, then blasted the creature's head off with a shotgun. In a final act of revenge, he ripped out its heart and barbecued it on the spot. Watching Ricardo take the first bite of the heart with satisfaction, everyone thought it was finally over. Their tense nerves had just begun to relax, when the very next second, an even larger snakehead lunged at Ricardo. This time, Ricardo wasn't able to escape. He was dragged straight into the water. To their horror, they realized there was more than one snakehead. The remaining survivors were thrown back into panic, unaware that the overturned grill had ignited a nearby gas tank and shotgun. By the time Mary noticed something was wrong, the shotgun, heated by the flames, suddenly went off. The bullet struck Mary in the head, killing her instantly. Before anyone could react, the gas tank shot upward like a rocket and landed right on Eliza's houseboat. On the roof, Eliza sensed something was wrong, but before she could move, the room beneath her caught fire. Then the gas tank exploded. The blast wave threw Eliza into the water, and Sam dove in without hesitation to save her. But as he dragged her back, a snakehead charged toward them at full speed. To buy Sam time, Eliza's mother, Gloria, slashed her palm with a knife and held it in the water to lure the creature away. The blood worked. Sam seized the chance to pull Eliza to safety, but Gloria was now in grave danger. The snakehead leapt onto the houseboat. Even though Dan grabbed her arm and tried to pull her up, the creature caught her and bit off her lower body in one snap. Watching her mother sacrifice herself, Eliza was overcome with grief. Now, only 3 of them were left alive. For safety, Sam pulled Eliza up onto the roof, but the snakehead wasn't ready to give up. It began ramming the houseboat again and again, trying to destroy their last refuge. Under the relentless assault, the houseboat started sinking slowly. The 3 survivors were helpless, left with nothing to do but wait for death to come. Just as the rising river was about to swallow the rooftop, an airboat slowly approached. The 3 survivors waved frantically, warning them about the danger lurking below. But before they could finish speaking, a snakehead suddenly attacked, throwing several crew members into the water. One man tried to swim back to the boat, but the snakehead burst from the water, ramming him into the spinning propeller and killing him instantly. Fortunately, 3 others managed to climb onto the houseboat. Their leader, Jeff, looked over the carnage without much surprise. He simply asked how many of the creatures there were. When Dan told him they had already killed one, Jeff revealed the origin of the genetically engineered snakeheads. Even he hadn't expected them to grow so large in just a few months. Suddenly, a snakehead's dorsal fin cut through the water. Jeff quickly fired a tranquilizer dart, hitting the fin dead on. The dose was strong enough to bring down 2 rhinos. Eager to claim his prize, the man couldn't wait to get into the water to catch the snakehead. But instead of going under, the creature leapt out and swallowed him whole. Jeff dove in to save him, only to find himself in danger as well. At the last moment, Sam fired a flare, driving the snakehead away and saving Jeff's life. Jeff climbed back aboard and immediately led them in pursuit of the monster. They followed it through the night and ended up near the strange fishing boat. There, they discovered the snakehead's lair. Inside, they found a dead snakehead. Jeff explained that he had bought 3 snakeheads. 2 were dead, leaving only the last one. Determined to take it alive, Jeff pointed a gun at Sam and forced him to enter the lair first. Sam reluctantly complied. Suddenly, an enormous alpha snakehead, far larger than the others, lunged from the shadows and killed Jeff and another hunter instantly. In the chaos, Sam escaped the lair with Eliza and Dan and made it back to the airboat. During the chase, Dan was thrown into the water but managed to scramble onto a muddy bank, avoiding immediate death. Realizing they couldn't outrun the monster, Sam steered the airboat toward a cluster of tree stumps. The impact knocked off the protective cage around the propeller. The giant snakehead followed, hurling itself into the exposed spinning blades. It was shredded to pieces and killed instantly. Exhausted and relieved, Sam and Eliza shared a passionate kiss. Then they remembered Dan and turned back to find him, only to see him trapped in thick mud, screaming as dozens of baby Frankenfish swarmed toward him. The story ended on this grim note, implying the threat was far from over and leaving Dan's fate uncertain.